What do the games Rampage World Tour, Clay Fighter 63 1/3, and Bubsy 3 all have in common? These three terrible games were all released in 1997, but they were not the year's worst games. At least, not according to Next Generation magazine, who gave all three of these stinkers 2 stars out of 5. As crazy as it sounds, Next Generation gave 21 different games a lower score than Bubsy 3D. I'm talking about the dreaded 1 star. And today we're going to go through all of these reviews and read the meanest, nastiest, and snarkiest quotes for all 21 of these supposedly awful games. This is Next Generation's 1-star reviews, and these are the 21 worst games of 1997.
There are lots of good reasons to go with Sega Saturn instead of Pretendo. We call them games. Sega Saturn has tons of them. Pretendo has just a few. It does beg the question, do you want to play or twiddle your thumbs? Face it, Pretendo, you weren't worth waiting for.
Alright, up first we have A Fork in the Tail on the PC. You put in the CD and start the game. Click. Oh, haha, Rob Schneider just said something kinda funny. Watch some video, click click. Watch more video, click. More kinda funny jokes, click. Make a decision, click. Watch more videos, click. End. That's pretty much all there is to A Fork in the Tail. As with many full-motion video-based titles, this is nothing more than a semi-interactive movie rental. Considering the cost, you might as well put that money into buying a movie for your VCR. At least you'll know it's good, and you'll get to watch it with some popcorn and soda. Number 2, Batman Forever, the arcade game on Saturn. We prayed that the arcade game would be different from the original 16-bit home versions. However, we should have just prayed that the game would be better, because unfortunately, it isn't. The gameplay is nearly identical to the Streets of Rage series with a few new bells and whistles. The game also borrows a bit from Killer Instinct, enabling the player to throw opponents into the screen. What it boils down to is this: a beat-em-up game is still a beat-em-up game, no matter how hard you try to dress it up. All flash and absolutely zero substance. Number 3, Cruis'n USA on the Nintendo 64. This game began its life as the brainchild of legendary game designer Eugene Jarvis and has been turned into a somewhat successful arcade title. But from the very beginning, Cruis'n was destined for the Nintendo 64, and it's possibly for this reason that we're so disappointed at the result of more than 2 years of development. This half-hearted, roughshod conversion is exactly what the Nintendo 64 doesn't need, and adds weight to the growing gripe among third parties that the system is a bitch to work with. We even finished the whole game in under 2 hours on our first attempt, and didn't relish the prospect of starting over. Number 4, Dragon Dice on PC. Some pen and paper games survived the transition to computer game quite well. Others, for whatever reason, should have been left out of the computer arena altogether. The first problem with Dragon Dice is that it's displayed only in a low-resolution window. It appears the developers have never heard of full screen mode, and in fact, the window size can't be changed at all. Even the Windows 95 Maximize button is grayed out. Fans of the tabletop version of Dragon Dice will be better off finding a friend and using their money to purchase additional sets of real dice. It's a lot more fun than playing it on the computer, and there's never the worry that the game is going to crash. Number 5, DragonHeart Fire and Steel on PlayStation. This is, without a doubt, the perfect example of why Acclaim lost $190 million in 1996 and shatters in one blow any good karma built up from Alien Trilogy. It's the perfect combination of bad decisions. A miserable movie license snapped up only because it's a movie license and then ignored completely in the design of the game, coupled with the slapped together gameplay elements. Acclaim wisely avoided sending evaluation copies to the press until the game was released, assuring it had at least a month or two on shelves before the negative waves hit. Perhaps the company's only good decision. Number 6, Fantastic Four on PlayStation. Despite all this talk about the new Acclaim, someone seems to have let an old Acclaim title slip through. Like the worst of Acclaim's licensed games for the last 8 years, this one takes the venerable piece of pop culture property, in this case Stanley's Fantastic Four, and reduces it to dismal side-scrolling action using action in the loosest sense of the word. Up to 4 people can be tortured at once by this travesty as they move across the screen from left to right, controlling big, disjointed sprite characters in the classic, read tired, Final Fight style. Before we give Fantastic Four its 1 star, we'd like to apologize to the other games we've given 1 star. Most of them were merely terrible and didn't deserve to be grouped in with the likes of this kind of calculated deception. This is not a game. This is an insult. Number 7, FIFA 97 on PlayStation. Every single version of FIFA has been the hands-down best soccer game around, until now. FIFA 97 ignores its own respected tradition of fast, realistic game mechanics and instead offers polygonal players and slow, boring play. The most glaring problem is the pace, which is so slow that you may need a good 5 minutes to run from one side of the pitch to the other. EA Sports probably wishes that this is the only thing wrong with FIFA 97, but we can't overlook the choppy frame rate, miserable ball physics, sloppy control, and the rest of the long list of the game's manifold shortcomings. The simple, sad fact is that FIFA 97 is the most disappointing EA Sports game in years. Number 8, Gundam Gaiden 3 on the Saturn. Since Gundam fans tend to be otaku, much like Trekkers are in America, Bandai clearly expects its target group to be locked in. This game is for those who bought the first 2, and no one else. The graphics remain pretty much unchanged from the first game, complete with the fast but limited 3D engine and some truly boring textures. Although marketed as a separate game in Japan, this is nothing more than a glorified expansion pack, and a poor one at that. This is the kind of game that makes you glad that the Sega Bandai merger fell through. Number 9, Machine Hunter on PlayStation. If plagiarism is the most sincere form of flattery, then Gremlin Interactive must be feeling pretty honored. MGM Interactive's Machine Hunter is pretty much a blatant carbon copy of Gremlin's Loaded series. Actually, the phrase that immediately springs to mind is rip-off. Gremlin's games aren't the only ones that phrase can be applied to. Players view the action from the all too familiar overhead perspective, walk around the corridor-ridden levels, blast whatever moves, and splatter blood across every surface. Level designs is pitifully standard, with narrow corridors opening to enemy-filled open areas. In a minor burst of originality, the levels are multi-tiered, a new twist to the subgenre. However, the similarities overpower any differences, and on a whole, the game is little more than a poorly executed rip-off. Number 10, Neo Hunter on PC. This is an awful game. Looking at the box, you might not think so. It's a cyberpunk action game set in the future, with animation in the style of Japanese anime and dialogue written by world-renowned science fiction author Orson Scott Card. But don't be fooled. The shouted insults, elaborate animations of the bad guys, and even story clues tossed into the middle of a firefight slow the game down intolerably. Throw on a jarring auto-aim feature that zooms the perspective when you shoot at somebody far away, and you've devolved what little action there is into pure confusion. And where is Orson Scott Card's input? We're not sure, but we hope that Nebula award-winning authors don't write dialogue like, "Are you called Little Head for something above your shoulders or something a little bit lower?" Number 11, NFL 97 on the Saturn. The Saturn has been out for over 2 years, yet somehow this is the first football game the once proud Sega Sports division has been able to release. Was it worth the wait? In a word, no. Gamers looking for evidence that Sega had forgotten that sports games were what made the Genesis a success need look no further. Not only did it take 2 years to put out a dismal football game, but Sega didn't even make it. They purchased the game from sports newcomer GameTech, who also sold the PlayStation version to Konami. The lifeless graphics and ill-conceived passing arc are just 2 examples of what makes this the worst football game in years. Other elements, like the poor control, just add to the already unpleasant experience. The only question remaining is what happened to the people at Sega responsible for good football games like NFL 95?
With Sega Sports NFL 97, you can design over 3 billion different plays, just like a real offensive coordinator, and run them with any team in the NFL.
Right on one! Banana split, 32 degrees on one! Okie from a skunky trap! Hose, bad! No, make that 4!
Sega Sports NFL 97.
Sega!
And we're back with number 12, Obsidian on PC. It's both amazing and depressing how popular Myst has been and continues to be. With the sole exception of Doom, it has the most clones of any computer game in existence. Sadly, Obsidian is a copycat product that isn't as interesting as the game it imitates. While the designers have tried to make everything as weird as possible, that mostly takes the form of adding a lot of extraneous details that has little to do with the puzzles that actually get you somewhere. If you want to play yet another puzzle game, you might as well just get Myst. At least that has the infamy of being first. Obsidian is just another ripoff. Number 13, Sky Target on Saturn. Even with the Model 2 board backing it up in arcades, Sky Target, a shooter patterned after the classic Afterburner, missed the mark with its simplistic gameplay. Unfortunately, the conversion to the Saturn has not been kind to what could, in a generous moment, only be considered adequate entertainment. Aside from the fact that the game looks atrocious, Sky Target's gameplay lacks the captivating nature of even a traditional Twitch shooter. As it stands, Sky Target lacks even the most rudimentary strategic element, since the game doesn't even require a judicious use of ammunition. Move up, down, right, left, and keep the missiles and Gatling gun buttons pushed down. That's the essence of Sky Target. In what could be considered the dark ages for Saturn, Sega has resorted to scraping the bottom of the barrel for home console conversions. Number 14, Slamscape on PlayStation. The perfect example of designers mistaking a game engine for an actual game, Viacom and MTV Slamscape is an amateurish attempt all around. A testament to the general lack of ambition shown in the title's development is the lack of options. This means no control over the difficulty level, music volume, stage select, and so on. Instead of anything useful, the player is treated to 3 full music videos from a band called God Lives Underwater. Definitely not for the hardcore gamer. This title is for those who don't know any better. Number 15, Space Jam on PlayStation. Well, this time Acclaim has gone too far, whoring out the NBA Jam engine one last time, sounding PlayStation with a game that feels disappointingly 16-bit. So, what does Acclaim have to offer here? A great basketball game? Nope. A fun showcase for the Warner Brothers characters? Nope. How about a stinking great commercial license with nothing of worth underneath? Yup. And that's all, folks. Number 16, Terra Cresta 3D on Saturn. Why is it lately that every game designer feels they need to add that extra D when they make the third in a series? This has to be the only explanation for why Nikabutsu felt they needed to create such a gratuitously polygonal shooter. The level design is of the lowest common denominator, cookie-cutter, purple-blotchy copy of every other shooter known to humankind variety. It's so predictable that the only reason players can't get their ship perfectly in place for the next wave of enemies is the slowness of the graphics engine. The unimaginative use of 3D is so pathetic it's execrable. Ideally, polygonal graphics should enhance the visual design by creating smoothly animated enemies and eye-catching levels. The polygons here not only slow the game's speed, but also make the enemies and textures so bland that even the original Terra Cresta plays better. Number 17, The Crow, City of Angels on PlayStation. When a pre-release copy of The Crow, City of Angels arrived in our offices, we were amazed at how much work still needed to be done on the game. The control was horrible, it was very difficult to see what was going on, and collision detection was extremely inaccurate. Well, after seeing the final release version that will appear on store shelves, we were horrified to learn that the pre-release version that we played was essentially complete after all. If Acclaim truly intends to survive through the next generation, it better rethink its strategy. Crap like this has no reason to exist. Number 18, The Lords of Tantrazz on PC. We shouldn't even review this since it's only a game in the most technical sense of the word. Lords of Tantrazz is a graphic adventure, kind of, but it's not going to leave much of a dent in the genre. Think of Myst with hand-drawn, comic book-style art, then throw in a female secret agent with enormous breasts and a liberal dose of gratuitous butt shots, and you get the idea. It'd be tempting to chalk this up to Atlantean's prior, design strategy behind its strip games, in which the interaction is secondary to the payoff. However, that argument holds water about as well as a wicker chair, since the ending isn't even a real ending. It comes to a stop with a wait for the exciting conclusion in Tantrazz 2 message. Insulting. Pathetic. Number 19, Battle Arena Toshinden URA on the Saturn. Battle Arena Toshinden was released at the time of the PlayStation's launch. The game showcased the graphical prowess of the system. Since then, Sega has twice attempted to put it out on the Saturn, and in both times its attempts have failed miserably. Anytime you can beat the entire game on the hardest difficulty by mashing on one button with your eyes closed, yeah, there's something wrong with your game. With Toshinden URA, you can do exactly that. Another problem is the Saturn's control, which is usually perfect for fighting games like Street Fighter II and Virtua Fighter 2, but Toshinden was designed for PlayStation's pad and just doesn't have the same intuitive feel on the Saturn. With all the competition in the 3D fighter arena, a poorly designed, choppy, and basically ugly game like Toshinden URA has no chance. Speaking of which, number 20, War Gods on Nintendo 64. Like many Midway titles, War Gods originated in the arcades, and while Midway is an arcade legacy few can match in terms of popularity and longevity, one title that will never be remembered as a classic is War Gods. The sad thing is, despite all the extra effort that went into it, War Gods on the Nintendo 64 still isn't any more fun than it was originally. It probably should have been left where it was and forgotten. The only points of interest are the easy-to-learn Mortal Kombat-style fighting system and the batch of horrific fatalities that are good for a chuckle the first time. Ugh, waiting for Mortal Kombat 4 was just made a lot easier. And finally, number 21, Westworld 2000 on PC. Based on Michael Crichton's film Westworld, this game neither entertains as well as the film, nor even contains the same urgency or involved storyline. Basically, this game is about as fascinating as a pair of dirty underwear. The idea is fine, it's the execution that hurts. The first-person engine is sluggish, like something developed even before Wolfenstein 3D. The delay between the key presses and actual movement are unacceptable, and the graphics are as flat as they come. It feels more like you're dealing with cardboard cutouts than any sort of 3D realm. Just avoid this at all costs.
Caution, this is only a game.
Slamscape! Drive, shoot, slam! Real-time 3D! 5 twisted levels, 4 life-threatening zones, lots of loud music, high-stakes action, high speed. Control the noise. Slamscape! For Sony, PlayStation, and PC CD-ROM. Interactive soundtrack by God Lives Underwater.
Hey, thanks for watching me talk about these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you'll be happy to know that we're going to be posting new episodes every Monday. This is a 7-part series with the first 3 episodes now up in an official playlist. Give them a look and tune in next week for the worst of 1998. Now, here's the question I have for you. What was Next Generation's meanest, nastiest, and snarkiest reviews of 1997? There were no Roseanne insults this episode, but still plenty to choose from. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, I'm hard at work on a bunch of reviews, including Urbex, City Builder, Loop Mancer, S-Proxy, Pixel, Gangsters, Battle, Part, Zell, and more. We're also going to be digging into more magazines, so be on the lookout for that. While you wait, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,